Hello, dear ones. It's May here, sitting quietly in the dim light of my kitchen, just like so many nights before. If you're listening to this, perhaps you're curled up in your own quiet space, maybe with a cup of tea, letting the world outside fade away. I've got a story to share with you tonight, one that's been weighing on my heart for a long time. It's my story, told from the depths of a mother's soul. Pull up a chair, close your eyes if you like, and let's walk through it together step by gentle step. I remember that evening as if it were etched in glass, fragile, sharp, and impossible to forget. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky a bruised purple, and the house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I was standing just outside the door to my son's study, my hand hovering over the knob, not quite daring to turn it. Inside I could hear their voices. His, my boy's, low and steady, and hers sharp like a winter wind. "I can't stand you anymore," she said, the words slicing through the wood like a knife. Not to him, oh no. To me. She didn't know I was there, or maybe she did and didn't care. My heart stuttered in my chest, a cold wave washing over me, making my fingers tremble. How had it come to this? Me, the woman who had raised him, loved him through every scraped knee and sleepless night, reduced to an eavesdropper in my own home. I leaned against the wall, the cool paint pressing into my back, and closed my eyes. The air smelled of the dinner I'd cooked earlier, roast chicken with herbs from the garden I'd tended for years. But now it felt like ashes in my mouth. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, hot and unwelcome. I was 68 then, my hair more silver than brown, my hands marked with the lines of a life spent giving. And in that moment, standing there like a shadow, I wondered if all those years had led only to this, being unwanted, unseen. My mind drifted back, as it often does in quiet pain, to how it all began. To the days when love felt endless, and family was a warm blanket against the world's chill. Let me take you there slowly so you can feel it with me. It was a different time, though not so long ago. I was younger then, full of that quiet strength women like us carry without even knowing it. My name is May, and I grew up in a small town where the river bent lazy around the fields, and everyone knew your business but pretended they didn't. My parents were simple folk. Dad worked the mill. Mom kept the house and raised us 4 kids with a firm hand and a soft heart. I learned early that love meant sacrifice, that you gave without counting the cost. It shaped me, that lesson, like clay under patient fingers. I met my husband, Tom, at a church picnic when I was 22. He was tall, with kind eyes and a laugh that rumbled like distant thunder. We married young, as folks did back then, and built our life brick by brick. Tom worked construction, long hours under the sun, coming home with dust in his hair and a smile for me. We had our first child, Emily, 2 years later. A bright-eyed girl who filled our home with giggles. Then came Daniel, my son, 3 years after that. He was quieter, more thoughtful, with my dark hair and Tom's steady gaze. Holding him for the first time, I felt a love so deep it scared me. "This is forever," I whispered to him, as if sealing a promise. Our days were ordinary, but oh, they were beautiful in their simplicity. Mornings started with the scent of coffee brewing, Tom kissing my cheek before heading out. I'd pack lunches for the kids, Emily chattering about school, Daniel clinging to my skirt until I pried his little fingers loose with a hug. Afternoons were for chores, the garden, laundry flapping on the line like white flags of surrender to the wind. Evenings we'd gather around the table, sharing stories of the day. Tom would tease the kids and I'd watch, my heart full, thinking this was what life was meant for. But even then there were whispers of what was to come. Tom's back started aching from the heavy lifting, and money was tight some months. I took in sewing to help, my needle flying under the lamp late into the night while the house slept. I didn't mind, it was for them, always for them. Daniel grew into a thoughtful boy, good with books, dreaming of college. Emily was the firecracker, off to nursing school young. And me? I was the anchor, the one who held it all steady. Years slipped by like pages in a book. The kids left home. Emily to marry and start her own family across town. Daniel to the city for a job in tech. Tom and I rattled around in the empty house, but we had each other. We'd sit on the porch swing, his hand in mine, watching the stars. "We did good, May," he'd say, and I'd nod, feeling the truth of it. Then Daniel met Sarah. She was bright, ambitious, a graphic designer with sharp features and a quick smile. They married in a small ceremony, And I remember standing there, tears in my eyes, thinking how proud I was. Sarah seemed kind at first, hugging me warmly, calling me Mom. They moved into a condo in the city, but visited often. When their first child came, little Ava, I was over the moon. I'd drive up to help, changing diapers, rocking her to sleep with the same lullabies I'd sung to Daniel. But seeds of unease were planting themselves quietly. Sarah's comments, small at first. May, you don't have to come every weekend, we need space. Or, the old recipes are sweet, but we're trying healthier options now. I brushed them off, telling myself it was just modern ways. Tom noticed too, but he'd pat my hand and say, "Give it time, love." Tom's passing came sudden, a heart attack one autumn morning. He was gone before I could say goodbye. The world tilted then, leaving me alone in that big house. Emily checked in, but she had her own life. Daniel urged me to move closer, and after months of lonely nights, I did. Sold the house, packed my memories, and bought a small place near them. "You'll be part of the family," Daniel said, hugging me tight. First it was good. I'd babysit Ava, now a toddler, and later little Ben when he arrived. Sarah worked long hours climbing her career ladder, and I filled the gaps, picking up from daycare, cooking meals. My days found purpose again. But slowly the air shifted. Sarah's smiles grew thinner. "May, the kids need routine. Your stories keep them up too late." Or, "We appreciate the help, but maybe don't rearrange the kitchen." I felt it like a slow drip, my place shrinking. Loneliness crept in, quiet as fog. Nights alone in my apartment, I'd stare at photos of Tom, of the kids young. What now? I'd whisper to the empty room. Neighbors were kind, but it wasn't the same. I joined a book club, tried knitting classes, but my heart was with my family. Little disrespects piled up. Forgotten invitations to dinners, my advice dismissed with a wave. Financially, it was tight on my pension, but I'd slip money for the grandkids' toys, not wanting to burden. And then the secret started whispering. I overheard Sarah on the phone once, complaining about the old woman always around. It stung, but I swallowed it. For Daniel. For the kids. That's what mothers do, isn't it? We bend so we don't break. As the years went on, those small cracks widened into fissures. Ava was 5 now, Ben 3, and they were my light. But Sarah's patience wore thin. One evening, I was at their house for dinner, my weekly visit. I'd brought apple pie, Tom's recipe. As I set it down, Sarah sighed. "May, we're watching sugar. The kids don't need it." Daniel shot her a look, but said nothing. I smiled, but inside it twisted. Later, washing dishes while they put the kids to bed, I heard them in the hall. "She's always here, Dan." "It's suffocating." His murmur placating. "She means well, Sarah." But he didn't defend me, not really. I dried my hands, slipped out quietly, the drive home blurred by tears. The first big conflict came over the holidays. Christmas was always my thing, decorating, baking, the whole family together. But that year, Sarah wanted to host at their place her way. "Modern traditions," she said. I offered to help, but she waved me off. When I arrived, the house was sleek, minimalist. No stockings I'd sewn, no old ornaments. The kids loved it, but I felt like a guest, perched on the edge of the couch. During dinner, Sarah turned to me. "May, have you thought about senior living? There's a nice place nearby, activities, friends your age." Her tone was sweet, but the words landed like stones. Daniel nodded. "It might be good for you, Mom. Less lonely." Lonely? With them so close? I murmured something about thinking on it, but inside betrayal bloomed. That night, alone in my bed, I cried for the first time in years. Was I a burden now? Months later, another scene etched in memory. Ava's birthday party. I'd made her a quilt, hours of stitching love into every square. Sarah accepted it politely, but later, I saw it folded away in a closet. "She prefers store-bought," Daniel explained awkwardly when I asked. We argued then, my voice rising for once. "I'm her grandmother. Doesn't that mean anything?" He sighed. "Mom, Sarah's the mom now. Respect that." The hurt deepened. Health issues crept in, my arthritis flaring, making drives harder. I mentioned it once, hoping for empathy. Instead, Sarah suggested I stop coming so often. "For your sake," she said. But it felt like pushing me away. Then came the breaking point, hovering just out of reach. Ben got sick, a bad flu. I rushed over to help, as always. Sarah was at work, Daniel frantic. I nursed him through the night, cool cloths, stories to soothe. By morning he was better. But when Sarah returned instead of thanks, her face hardened. You should have called me first. I'm his mother. Words escalated, her accusing me of overstepping, me defending my place. Daniel stood between us, torn. As I left, her voice followed. This can't go on. And in my heart, I knew the storm was coming. Every woman who gave everything and got nothing back will understand this. The quiet ache of loving too much, of fading into the background while the world moves on without you. It's a pain that whispers in the night, asking if it was all worth it. Have you ever felt like a guest in your own home, dear listener? Like the walls that once held your laughter now echo with someone else's rules? I paused there in the midst of that memory and wondered the same. Or perhaps you've stood at the edge of your family, watching them thrive, and realized you're no longer the center. Just a fading photo on the shelf. Would you forgive your child for choosing sides, for letting love grow conditional? I ask these things not to stir sorrow, but because I know I'm not alone. So many of us women carry these invisible scars, from mothers who sacrifice careers for cribs, to grandmothers pushed to the margins. Have you ever hidden your tears behind a smile, pretending it doesn't hurt when your advice is brushed aside like dust? Or felt the sting of betrayal from the ones you raised, the ones who once clung to you like lifelines? If this resonates, share your story in the comments below. Not for pity but for connection, for that quiet nod across the screen that says, I see you, sister. I've been there too. It's in these shared whispers that we find strength, reminding ourselves that our worth isn't measured by how much we're needed, but by the love we've given freely. Reflecting now, I see how those small dismissals were like pebbles in a shoe, bearable at first, but over time they blister the soul. I learned slowly that self-love isn't selfish, it's survival. But back then, in the heat of it, I was still clinging, still hoping. And what about you? Have you ever chosen silence over a fight, swallowing pride for the sake of peace? Or realized in a quiet moment that aging doesn't diminish your fire? It just burns steadier, deeper? These questions linger with me even now. They're the threads that weave us together, us women who've loved fiercely. Let's return to the story, shall we? There's more to tell, and perhaps in the telling, we both find a little healing. That was the moment I realized I was just a visitor in my own life. Standing outside that door, hearing words that cut deeper than any knife, wondering when I'd stopped belonging. The tension built like a gathering storm after that night with Ben. Days turned to weeks, and the calls from Daniel grew sparse. When I did visit, the air was thick with unspoken words. Sarah's smiles were polite masks, her conversations clipped. I tried to bridge it, bringing flowers, offering to watch the kids less often. But the damage was done. One afternoon it all shattered. I'd stopped by unannounced, a rare thing, with homemade soup for the family. Daniel was at work, the kids at school. Sarah answered the door, her face paling. May, now's not a good time. But I stepped in anyway, my mother's instinct overriding caution. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one I'd helped them pick out years ago. She poured tea, her hands steady, but her eyes avoided mine. We need to talk, she said finally. The words poured out then, how my presence overwhelmed her, how she felt judged by my old-fashioned ways, how Daniel was caught in the middle. I can't stand it anymore, she burst out. You're always here, always in our business. We need space to be our own family. I sat there stunned, the tea cooling untouched. But I'm family too, I whispered. I've only ever wanted to help. She shook her head. Help that comes with strings, May. Expectations. It's exhausting. The argument escalated, my voice rising in defense, hers sharp with frustration. Memories flashed. Me rocking Daniel as a baby, Tom and I scraping by to send him to school, the joy of grandchildren in my arms. And now this, betrayed by the life I'd built. Daniel came home to find us in tears. He listened, face ashen, then turned to me. Mom, maybe it's time for a break. For everyone's sake. His words were a punch to the gut. I left that day feeling broken, the drive home a blur of sobs. Loneliness swallowed me whole in the weeks that followed. The phone rang rarely. Emily called, concerned but distant. My health dipped, arthritis flared, and a doctor visit revealed high blood pressure. Stress, he said. I wandered my apartment like a ghost, questioning everything. Had I overstepped? Clung too tight? A turning point came unexpectedly. At my book club I met Lila, a widow like me, sharp-eyed and kind. Over coffee I poured out my story. "You've given enough, May," she said. "Now give to yourself." Her words planted a seed. I started small walks in the park, volunteering at the library. Slowly the ache eased, replaced by a quiet resolve. But the climax loomed. Daniel called one evening, voice strained. "Mom, Sarah and I were struggling. Can you come over?" I went, heart pounding. There in their living room the truth unfolded. Sarah admitted her own pressures, work, motherhood, insecurities. "I felt like I couldn't measure up to you," she confessed, tears streaming. Daniel hugged her, then me. "I've been a coward, Mom. I'm sorry." We talked through the night, raw, honest words. No easy fixes, but a start. I shared my pain, they theirs. By dawn a fragile bridge formed. In the months after, things shifted slowly. Visits became planned, boundaries respected. I found joy in my independence. Classes, friends, even a trip with Emily. The grandkids still lit up for me, but now on terms that honored everyone. Looking back, I see the lesson clear as day. Motherhood isn't about holding on forever. It's about loving enough to let go. We women pour our souls into our families, often forgetting our own cups need filling too. If you're feeling invisible, tired, unloved, know this. Your worth isn't in what you give away, but in the strength you hold within. To all the mothers, grandmothers, women listening, you are enough, just as you are. And sometimes the greatest act of love is reclaiming yourself. That night, after hearing those words through the door, I chose to step back. Not out of anger, but out of love for me. And in that space, healing began. Remember that, dear ones. Always remember. Every tear a mother sheds is a pearl of unspoken love. Hidden away, but shining in the quiet moments when the world finally sees her light. The path to forgiveness isn't straight. It winds through the heart-shadowed valleys. But emerging on the other side, you find a peace that's truly yours. I once thought family was everything, now I know so is the woman who built it. Never forget to honor her, even when others don't. In the silence after the storm, I heard my own voice for the first time, whispering, "You deserve this peace, May. You've earned it." Betrayal tastes bitter, but acceptance is sweet like rain after drought. It washes away the old, making room for new growth in a weary soul. To every woman listening, your sacrifices are seen, even if not by those closest. The universe keeps count, and one day it balances the scales. That moment outside the door wasn't the end. It was my awakening to a life where I mattered not just to others but to myself. As the story closes, let these words linger. Love freely, but hold a peace for you. For in that balance lies the true beauty of a woman's journey. Now, as the night deepens, I reflect on how far I've come. From that shattered evening to this quiet acceptance, the road was long, paved with tears and truths. Daniel and Sarah worked on their marriage, therapy helping them communicate. I was included but not depended on. Ava and Ben grew, their hugs still warm, their laughter a balm. I found new rhythms, gardening and community plots, where hands in soil connected me to life cycles. Lila became a dear friend. We'd share stories over tea, laughing at our follies, crying over losses. Emily visited more, our bond strengthening as she navigated her own motherhood. Health improved with walks and mindfulness. I learned to breathe through pain, both body and heart. Financially, I budgeted wisely, even started a small Etsy shop selling quilts, turning love into livelihood. The deepest change was within. I forgave, not forgetting but releasing the weight. Sarah and I talked openly one day over coffee. "I was scared," she admitted, "of not being enough." I nodded. We all are sometimes. That conversation sealed our peace. To you, dear listener, if you're aching from similar wounds, know it's okay to step back. To say, "I matter too." Motherhood, womanhood, it's not martyrdom. It's a dance of giving and receiving. Aging brings wisdom, not irrelevance. Loneliness can be a teacher, leading to self-love. If you feel betrayed, invisible, reach out. To friends, to community, to that quiet voice inside. Forgive where you can, but protect your heart. And remember, love isn't finite. There's always more for yourself. As I sit here now, the kitchen light soft, I feel gratitude. For the pain that shaped me, the love that sustained me. Life's not perfect, but it's mine. One final thought to carry with you. In the end, the strongest women are those who rebuild from their own ruins. You have that strength. Believe it.